Welcome back to Myths, Legends, and Truths, and here's another original for you. So in the past, we've discussed sleep paralysis, the phenomenon where you can't move, your eyes are open, you're conscious, but again, you can't move and you start to see things, whether it's the old hag, whether it's some sort of entity, shadow figure. Well, these stories became very common internationally, to which it piqued the interest of some scientists that went ahead and did some research. So they came up with a solution. Basically, our body paralyzes us so we don't act out our dreams. And in some cases, we wake up before that, loses the effect of the paralysis, before you're able to actually gain full consciousness and move again. So it can be pretty scary. So if you guys have ever experienced sleep paralysis, we would love to hear your stories. Was it just the paralysis itself? You were awake and you couldn't move? Or did you actually experience something? Did you see something? Did you hear something? We definitely like to hear that. In the meantime, I'll tell you my story. I would definitely say that as a kid, I've always had issues sleeping. I was always pretty much scared of the dark. I wanted a nightlight, constantly seeing something in the shadows or hearing something. Was always too afraid to sleep in complete darkness. I guess my imagination would just run wild with me. But I would say definitely things got worse in my teenage years. I think for some time there was peace, and I did learn to sleep in the dark, learn or get used to sleeping in the dark. But at some point as a teenager, all of that changed and all my fears just came back to life. And a lot of that came back with sleep paralysis. So the first time I experienced sleep paralysis was in my teenage years. And I can pretty much remember all the events leading up to it. So I had a group of friends that I spent a lot of time with. And one of my really good friends has a sister. And his sister read tarot cards. Now, she was older, never really conversed with her for long periods. It was more of just kind of high and by. I didn't visit his house too often. But one day I was there and she was in the room practicing. She heard my voice and she came out and she pulled me into the room. So I sat down at a table with her and I saw that she had the tarot cards. And she began basically reading the cards, telling me about myself in the future. And I can't recall specifically, basically every detail of what she said. But mainly the focus was that she saw that I had gifts, natural talents of intuition, my third eye, that I just basically had to practice and learn how to use, not be afraid of it. She said maybe a lot of the stuff that I had experienced For example, being afraid of the dark, seeing the shadow figures, hearing the stuff. I didn't tell her any of that, but I'm just kind of putting two and two together. She said, don't be afraid. These are just natural gifts that you have. You just have to learn how to control them, learn how to shut them off, turn them on, whenever you want to use them. And that was pretty much it. There was no manual, no instruction on how to do these things. So I would say, I think at that point, so many things were kind of happening, which I think were made worse. Like paying attention to that just opened a floodgate. I think some people say that once those entities or spirits know that you can hear them or that you can see them or that you're looking to communicate, they just flock to you. It's like they know, the ones that are aware and have unfinished business. It's like they know, or you're a magnet, basically. So I think as I was trying to explore these things and be more in tune and aware, a lot of things started happening. So that was the scary part. And with that came the sleep paralysis. That's when it first started. And it was awful. I mean, it's this, to me, it's still the scariest thing. And I can feel when it's about to come on. I can't describe the feeling, but kind of like some people say from the toes up. For me, it's kind of like from my head down. It's just like this sensation, like light tingling, cool, kind of clammy sensation, almost like, I don't know if you guys have ever experienced passing out, but kind of like that experience where you get tingly, cool, clammy, and you just feel that just come right over you before you pass out. Well, in this case, I kind of feel it coming, and then all of a sudden, that's it. I can't move. I can move my eyes, but I can't speak. And a lot of those times, I didn't necessarily see some sort of entity. It was just scary. I was just very fearful, or maybe I just wasn't paying attention enough. I wouldn't look out into my surroundings. I was more focused on trying to move, not really focused on my surroundings and looking around. I was just trying to focus on moving. Maybe if I can wiggle a finger or talk. That was the other thing, focusing on moving and also focusing on yelling, calling for help, getting somebody's attention. So I don't know if anything was ever really lurking in the corners. I never really noticed, but again, I really wasn't looking for anything. It was a brand new phenomenon for me, and it was definitely scary. But with it, yes, sometimes, came noises. I would hear something. Many times I had issues sleeping. I would have the sleep paralysis, go back to sleep, have a terrible nightmare. I'd feel like someone was pulling my hair or pulling my toes. There were often times where I would wake up and it was the craziest sensation. And again, I try to think back and try to make sense of it, but it's like if I was levitating over the bed and I would wake up and suddenly just drop onto the bed. And that's what it felt like. That's what it seemed like to me. And I mean, in the middle of the dark, just waking up, that's what it felt like. Like I just landed on the bed. My mattress it was actually a day bed with some springs on the bottom, and you would hear the springs going like if somebody was jumping on the bed. So that's why I say it's like if I was levitating and I would wake up and just be dropped onto the bed, because that's how much movement, that's how much noise, that's what it seemed like. And I could never explain that. And it happened to me more than one occasion. So many times I would wake up, run across the room, turn on the lights, completely freaked out. And so that just definitely like opened the floodgates for me. So then after that, after having so many experiences and being so fearful, I don't think I ever actually tried to harness these gifts. I just blocked and suppressed everything. I just want it all to stop. I don't want to be afraid. I just want to sleep peacefully. And I realized that whenever there's some sort of paranormal activity, it was definitely linked with the sleep paralysis for me. It was never like everything is fine, there's no experiences, there's nothing, and then I have sleep paralysis. It was always, I'm hearing something during the day, something weird happens, I hear something weird, or I hear my name, or just something odd, something off. I see a shadow at the corner of my eye. And all these are happening while I'm awake. And then that night I go to sleep and I have sleep paralysis. It always seems kind of linked to that. There was one time where I had the sleep paralysis and I saw the shadow figure. But it seemed more of like a lucid dream, actually, than sleep paralysis. And this was in a hotel that we were staying at, celebrating our son's birthday. And the shadow figure was very similar to my son's size. And it seemed male to me. And I thought it was my son. I really thought it was my son. So I asked if he was okay and see if he wanted to come in the bed with us. And then I realized it was not my son. So there was a whole interesting story that went along with that. But I notice when I have those lucid dreams like that or sleep paralysis, that a lot of the times it's linked to some other activity. It just doesn't seem to happen at random. And I can always feel when it's coming on. And surprisingly, I had another friend that reads tarot cards and she's really in tune. And she said, whenever you feel that coming on, start to pray. And so that's what I started doing. I would feel it coming on, or if I thought that maybe that was one night in particular where it may happen because maybe some stuff happened during the day, I would pray, and so far that seems to work. So I definitely understand the scientific explanation behind it, why people do hallucinate, because they also say that dream part of your brain isn't completely shut off, even though you are conscious and you opened your eyes, which can cause those hallucinations. But I feel, at least in my case, that, okay, there are scientific reasonings for it, but I think there's also the other side, paranormal side, where something else is causing this to happen. for whatever reason. You might not agree. I definitely would like to hear your opinions on this topic. I would like to hear your comments and your experiences on this topic. Again, I can see both sides, and I think definitely both sides are legit, at least in my experience. So I hope you found this interesting. Like, comment, and subscribe, and tune in for more.